Thank you everyone for coming. So hopefully you can see, yep, perfect. I should caveat this by saying that someone this morning told me that the little image I've created looks a bit like a new Angry Birds thing, and now I can't unsee it. There we are. Welcome to the Halcyon project. I did need to include a slide on exactly why I call it the Halcyon project. So the title is inspired by the DevOps novel, The Phoenix Project. I don't know if anyone's read it. It is a good read. But I had some concerns with it. I feel like they raised the security team within the book as being sort of sensationalist and being a blocker to all their projects. And I thought, this cannot stand. How can they do this to us? So I came up with this idea of sort of giving a talk about how we can incorporate security within DevOps practices, obviously within DevSevOps, and what exactly that would look like. So, like other fine Belfast establishments, I've opened up a new shop, but it is riddled with vermin, as you can see from my totally AI-generated image here. How am I going to get rid of these bugs? Well, hopefully, I will engage some DevSevOps tactics in order to exterminate them. So I thought it best off to start with what exactly are the principles of DevSevOps, what does it encompass, before we actually introduce some tools and things in order to get rid of those bugs. So DevSevOps, and we love a buzzword in security, but is mostly about shifting left. What does that mean? So shifting left is taking security, and rather than engaging it at the end of a product where it's been through the development, the testing, everything, it comes out at the end and then you bolt on some sort of web app firewall and call it job done. We want to engage security in every aspect of that and shift it left into your greenfield space. You're just starting out a project, so let's try and inject some security before we even build anything. Now, the second pillar, I would say, of DevSevOps is automating that as well. We want to make sure that we're getting timely results. We're making sure that we are getting these faster and more efficiently, and enabling the dev teams to do their job in, introducing new functionality into the product, and also giving operations their space as well. Third thing is a culture of security. I'm sure most of you here will have been through your compliance training at work, where they say every member of our team is responsible for security, and it is true, of course. So we want to foster a culture of security within the team, within the company, the wider space. I'm all big for having a security champion within the development sector. So someone within the development team who's maybe a bit more familiar with security and can bolster those resources up and just sort of like be the security hype man as such. So next I'm introducing the secure software development life cycle. So you've got your traditional life cycle at the top, your planning requirements, then your design phase, then you go into your development, into testing, and then on to maintenance when you've got your built product at the end. So how does the secure software development lifecycle differ? We're just going to use those same steps, but we're just going to insert some of the security things within it as well. So when you're doing your planning and your requirements, let's do a risk assessment. Is it a product that's going to be open to the public? Are we now going to be taking in personally identifiable information and things like that? In the design phase, let's conduct threat modeling and design reviews. When you get to your development state, we want to incorporate some things like static analysis of your code, so sast scans, secure code reviews as well, making sure we've got someone on the security team who's looking at those merges and pull requests and making sure that we're not introducing new vulnerabilities. When we get into the testing phase, things get a bit more fun. We can introduce some Dast, some fuzzing techniques and things like that to simulate a penetration test against the application itself. And then when it comes to maintenance, we're generally looking at things like vulnerability management, incident response. So if a hack does occur, how are we going to respond to it? How the operations team is going to deal with it? Things like that as well. So now that I've defined sort of what DevSevOps is, and I've got my Juice Shop app, I need to come up with my extermination plan to get rid of these bugs. So I've listed some tools here. Other tools are available. Just find out what works best for your stack. I think there's actually a talk later on today about the various scanners and things and their efficacy, so well worth checking that out. But what am I going to use for my SAST, which is static application security testing? I'm using semgrep. For my software composition analysis scans, this is going to be my third-party dependencies, OpenSCA. And for my dynamic application security testing, I'm going to use OWASP ZAP. So I have a little video at the top. You probably can't see it. It's not really anything you need to pay attention to, but it's just me running the scan just so there's something going on in the background as well. So as I mentioned, static application security testing, that's what SAST stands for. It's going to take your code base at rest and just run through, scan it, analyze it for any vulnerabilities. Things like maybe a developer has not used parameterized input strings for their SQL, so that could be vulnerable to a SQL injection attack or something like that. Ideally, we want to do this within the CI/CD pipeline, and preferably on a per commit basis. There's no point in waiting until you've got a monolith of thousands and thousands of lines of code and then running one big scan and it's pumping out a huge number of results that you then have to throw back at the developers to fix, and they're going to be unhappy about it as well. So what will we want to give to our developers in order to help them to analyze and fix these? We want good information about what the findings are, where they are, and any potential fixes as well. So I was mentioning earlier about how you run one big scan and it could pump out hundreds of results. We could use something like stage gating, so we can reduce the number of findings that we're passing on to the developer team and making sure that it gets in their backlog and that they are working on it efficiently and in a timely manner as well. So we could, for example, run a scan and just check for anything that's critical, and then pass those critical findings on to the development team to put into their backlog. Once they've fixed those, we can reduce that down so the threshold is now high, and again, reduce that down to medium, reduce that down to low, and just enables the development team to get through things faster, reduces their work in progress, their WIP limits, which actually means that they can move at a faster rate than if they've got 100 tickets in a backlog, and they're just never going to touch that. So software composition analysis, this is going to be your third-party dependencies that I talked about before. During the scan, I obviously did find a critical, which was to do with sequelize. No surprise with OWASP Juice Shop that there's a critical vulnerability against it. So what we could do to fix this one is just simply bump the versions up. So I think we're using an outdated version here. If I look, it's 4.28.20, and on Sneak here on the website, it's saying you need to bump it up to above 6.19.1. So software composition analysis and SBOMs go hand in hand. Essentially, the SBOM is just a recipe of what goes into your code, your product, whatever you're handing off to the customer. And I think it was a Joe Biden executive order that mandated that if you're selling software to another company, that you must provide SBOMs with that as well. And I think it came from off the back of the Log4j, Log4Shell attacks, which was a great Christmas for anybody that was working on that one. Yeah, so getting these third-party dependencies, I think we've heard about them in other talks as well this morning. So a third-party dependency is obviously code that if you want to perform a certain function, you don't want to have to write the code yourself. You can go to PyPy or other packages and pull down code that will do it for you, and has already been written and trusted and used. So that's why a lot of it is imported in, but we need to make sure that it's safe and secure and is usable. So you could tie these software composition analysis into your vulnerability management, and you could have something like, I guess, dependency track is the OWASP one, where they go around and they will check periodically for your packages and say, oh, hang on, there's a later version now, or oh, there's a vulnerability that's been found against that version. You need to bump it up to a later version, etc. So really important to get that into your work. And again, for my Dast, I have used OWASP ZAP, which I think I mentioned before. And the Dast is dynamic application security testing. So this is going to go around, perform a web crawl of my application, just find out anything there is about it. Ideally, you would package all of these tools up that I'm talking about into your CI/CD pipeline. So when you're integrating it, you could use your SAST tool then on a per commit basis. When it's merged and then being built, you could use your software composition analysis. And then again, after that, you could use your Dast tool to find any vulnerabilities that are actually happening on the application itself. So what Dast is going to be doing is like a fuzz testing. If it sees input parameters and things like that, it's going to spam it with weird characters, with extra long characters, with special characters, and see how the application performs, if it handles it or if it breaks something, etc. Really what we're looking at with the Dast scans is focusing on your OWASP top 10. If you can focus on fixing those and getting those sorted, you are 90% there, because that's just going to be your low-hanging fruit. So I read a LinkedIn post a couple of weeks back saying DevSevOps is dead. Hopefully not, because otherwise I'm out of a job. But why they said that, when I read into what they were saying about it, is that security was becoming a blocker. Security was putting things in place that was hindering the development team, were causing frustration for the operations team. So really DevSevOps wasn't dead. It was just that they weren't introducing it in a strategic manner, in a good manner, in a way that was going to benefit the company as a whole. What they didn't do was balance those parts out. So security needs to be in balance with the development and the operations. I think I've mentioned before about how to do that. So putting stage gating in place could be a good introduction into adding DevSevOps in. Automating your testing to make sure that it's happening in a timely manner, so it's not taking out too many man hours as well, and introducing short feedback loops. So if something does crop up, developers know about it straight away. Maybe we could use a IDE plugin, so as the developers are even writing the code, it's going to flag up and say, hey, by the way, you've introduced a buffer overflow here or something, let's fix that, before it's even put into a commit. Most of the issues that have cropped up with Juice Shop, because it is a known vulnerable app and it is designed to be vulnerable from the get-go, really could have been mitigated by a proper threat model. I'm not going to tell you how to threat model. You could use something like the Stride model to sort of go through all of those things. But fixing issues in development is 30 times less expensive than production. So had they considered, when they're introducing these technologies from the start, to use different approaches or different methodologies, then this could have been avoided from the start. If you're low on manpower, or if you are like a small team, you could even use AI to help you with that. There's a tool called Stride GPT, which literally helps you to threat model using AI, which is a good place to go. Yeah, I think I've been through that quite quickly. I know it is a lightning talk, but I think that was pretty lightning. So I am happy to open the floor to any questions if anybody wants. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so the question for anybody that didn't hear was, how long does it take to run Zap? And yeah, you are quite right in that it does depend on the size of the application, the number of pages and the intricacies of the application itself. I think the one that I ran on OWASP Juice Shop took about 5-ish minutes, just for a point of reference. But yeah, if you've got a big sort of web app, then it's going to take a lot longer. And obviously you can fine tune it as well. So if you were doing a deeper crawl or a deeper scan, it's going to take longer, but it's going to produce better results than if you do a quick scan as such. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I have introduced these. So I work as a DevSevOps engineer, and yeah, working with trying to get these put into a DevOps environment. The number one thing that I found that I thought was a hurdle is getting developers to actually use the tools. Things like IDE plugins, getting them to actually use them and then fix their findings is a hurdle. I also think that trying to get them to work on tech debt is another hurdle. Tech debt is sort of where I would put the bucket for finding these vulnerabilities and fixing them. So yeah, getting them to actually work on that can be tricky. That's why you need a good relationship with them, and why I suggest having like a security champion within the development team to sort of foster that. Go ahead.
I think just one thing we've also found works well for motivating on that sort of stuff is centralizing the scanning a little bit more and just dashboarding the results.
Yeah.
And that way, because a lot of times the developers are finding that they don't have the time allocated to fix them. So if you're dashboarding it and showing it to the managers and here's how your department is doing, then they'll make the time. And you can apply that pressure higher up to give the developers the bandwidth to work on it.
100%. Yeah, if you can get the management buy-in to spend the time on fixing these things, 100%. Maybe you could take it to the risk committee or risk management team or something like that and highlight, these are the findings we've got, this is the risks if you don't. Once you got...
We actually wound up just tying to the more critical ones that showed up, like tying them into our vulnerability management process and just saying, right, these are going to follow the same timelines.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, go ahead.
A question about that S1 thing you mentioned that Joe Biden wanted. So I wasn't aware of it before. I just had to Google it to see what it was halfway through. Does it seem a wee bit dangerous to take all the libraries that you use to build this material and then make them public knowledge? Is that like kind of putting a target on your back?
I don't know if you have to make them public. Do you have to make them public or just share them with the customers? I'm fairly sure you just have to share them with the customers, although maybe that's in a public domain. I'm not sure if it's under NDA or whatever. It could potentially put a target on your back if people are out there and know that, hey, I don't know, company A have incorporated log4j into their thing, then they'll say like, oh, let's use that and we'll see if we can get a nice, good bug bounty out of them or something like that. Could paint a target on your back, yeah. But I think it's better to be aware. I think bringing the awareness of what is actually under your systems or your systems are built on is better awareness. I guess painting that target on your back also means that management, etc., are going to pay a lot more attention to getting these issues fixed. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so blocking applications from being deployed if they have vulnerabilities. I mean, that's the goal, right? We don't want to deploy any applications that have vulnerabilities in them, to my knowledge. If you're getting pressure from above and things like that because management want this application out, then I guess it comes down to just sort of managing those risks, managing those expectations. Are these findings actually exploitable? That's another thing, because you could be bringing in these dependencies and part of the dependency might have a vulnerability against it, but is it actually reachable and exploitable? That's another situation as well. So yeah, putting context behind them is definitely going to help in that scenario. Cool. Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, James. Is Harriet here? Okay. Harriet's not here. We'll just take a couple of minutes of think break. Yeah. By the way, we've had just so everyone knows, there has been a minor fire in the Grand Ballroom. Battery for one of the battle bots short-circuited, and a cloud of smoke came out and set the fire alarm off, and that set the sprinklers off. Everything is fine up there, but people might be looking a bit shell-shocked. So apparently there was a little bit of damage to the carpet from the sprinklers, and our event insurance is going to get a workout. So in case you hear anyone talking about a